Hi, today I'm going to make apple crisp. This is something that I've enjoyed basically all my life. I hope you enjoy it too. So I've washed my apples and now I'm going to show you how I can core them two different ways. With an apple core, I just take it and put it in the center of the apple and give it a couple of taps, push it through, and then I can push out the core. There's the core. At which point I can then easily go chop, and it's ready for my food processor. Oh, there's a couple of seeds. I had it off on the angle a little bit. So I'll do another one and I'll show you what I do when I notice that I've got the angle off a little bit. Okay, so this apple's sitting a little bit off to the side, so I'm gonna start it up on the high point, get it centered. All right, now I'm gonna have a look, and I see that there are a few more in there, so I'm just gonna run it down the side where the it shows the little bit of seeds that I missed. And then I'm going to take my knife and I'm gonna go like this, and ta-da! Oh, one more seed. The other way I can prep apples, if I don't feel like using the core, I do the cut like I did previously, and then I just take my paring knife and give it a little nib, and voila. Done. So it just depends on which way you prefer to prepare your apples for the apple crisp. And depending on how much apple I have left, I might also make applesauce. I now have my apples all prepared, and I've set up my Bullet Express in slicing mode. If anybody wants to see how to assemble this, please just let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to create a video. So it says to use this option in low, so let's go. The container I'm using to make my apple crisp is a large dish. It says it's 2.5 quarts. There's definitely too many apples, so I'm going to guesstimate how many apples I want. Now remember, when your apples cook, they're going to shrink. It's going to shrink down a fair bit. So I'm going to guesstimate that that's about what I need to fill up my container here. And in this bowl, I am going to mix. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch over to the big bowl. I like to mix in a big bowl. It's much easier. Okay, let's do it that way. All right, so I've got approximately half the apples that I sliced. I'm going to add cinnamon to it. I like a fair bit of cinnamon in my apples. And then I'm going to add some brown sugar. Now, I'm at the bottom of my container of brown sugar, and it's a little bit on the dry side, so I'm crumbling it up in the container first before I put it on my apples, because I don't want lumps. I don't want to be getting chunks of brown sugar in my apples. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple handfuls of brown sugar in the bowl. And I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of oat flour to allow for some of the juices to thicken up so it's not a soupy mess at the bottom when you go to spoon it out. At this point, you could add some raisins or anything like that to the concoction. Oh, and another thing that goes good in here is walnuts or pecan nuts. So it just depending on how you feel about what you're making, what you have in the kitchen. Is it going to be a simple dessert, or do you want to make it a little bit more of a variety of flavors and textures? I personally really like the plain basic apple crisp. So just stir in your flour and your sugar and your oat flour. Now I used oat flour, and I am going to make a video on how to make your own oat flour from your rolled oats. Coming soon. All right, so look, that was so difficult, right? So now let's see how I did guesstimating my apples for my container. I say I did pretty good. Because on top of this, we're going to make an apple, or like a crumble. I just thought I would add this in. It's called a brown sugar disc. And it keeps my brown sugar in my container moist. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but anyways, soak it in water. I put it in boiling water for 15 minutes, and then it says to pat it dry. So I have a clean dishcloth here, and I'm patting it dry. And then I just put it into my brown sugar, and now I don't have to worry about dried out clumpy brown sugar. So those are available virtually anywhere. I've seen them at Bed Bath & Beyond and a few other kitchen stores. So I don't know if that was helpful, but I hope so. On to the topping. So I like to use about a 1/4 cup of butter and 1 cup of brown sugar, and give it a cream. I've changed over to a fork to cream my butter, which makes total sense. Cream my butter and brown sugar, I should say. Again, I like to add my cinnamon, and I like a lot of cinnamon flavors. So again, this is cinnamon to taste. Start with, I don't know, a tablespoon, I guess. I don't measure. This is a recipe that I don't typically measure. I went looking in my recipe files to find the original recipe, and I don't have it. I just make this on the fly. So once you get this all incorporated with the butter, sugar, and cinnamon, then start adding some oat flour. And I would say about a 1/4 cup of oat flour. So now it's starting to get into a bit of a ball kind of consistency. For the actual rolled oats, I'm going to start with a couple of cups. 1 cup, and start working it into the oats. Now we're looking to just get a little bit of butter and cinnamon and brown sugar on each of the flakes. And I gauge it by how big are the balls of brown sugar left. Like this piece right here is there's lots of big pieces, and I look at how much loose oatmeal is there. And I'm gonna get my fingers in there. Nothing like hand. Get your hand. Oh, see, look, it works way better with the hand. To heck with the fork. And now, where I was thinking that I didn't need more oats with the fork aspect of it, I'm gonna go for another, say, half a cup of oats. See how I like it. And by using the oat flour, this recipe is gluten-free. Now I'm gonna go for that last half a cup. I thought so. In my head said to me 2 cups of oats. There, I like that. Okay, so if I can show you, it's loose, right? There's no dry oats. And all you have to do now is bring your apples over and fill in the little crevices. I'm going to heat my oven at about 350 degrees. And because I have a clear container, I'll be able to see the juices bubbling at the bottom of the casserole dish. See, look, I did that basically Ronda on the fly, and it's perfect. Back to baking. 350 degrees until the top starts to get a little bit on the brown side, toasted basically. And then it's ready. You can eat it fresh or warm with ice cream. I like frozen yogurt as opposed to ice cream. That's my favorite. I'll come back and show you what I mean by the brown top. So that's 30 minutes in the oven and it's ready. If you look at the top, I'll show you a better view outside on the counter. Oh, it smells so good. Here is the before and after. So I decided that I wasn't making applesauce. I made a second one in the time that this was cooking. So this is what it looks like before you put it in, and it's not cooked, obviously. And you can see that the edge has reduced by about this much with the apples cooking down. Oh, that looks so good. So right now it's definitely too hot, but I'm gonna put this other one in the oven, and I will then put one in the freezer for another meal, dessert meal.